Welcome to Live Free. I'm Angela K. Austin. Together, we'll discuss books, we'll explore the world, and we'll do it with some of my closest friends. And hopefully, we'll make new ones along the way.
Hey everybody, this is Angela K. Austin, and today I am here with Mark Coker, from CEO and founder of Smashwords. I was about to say from Smashwords, but CEO and founder of Smashwords. Say hi to everybody, Mark.
Hello, everyone. Great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me, Mark. And as I shared with Mark earlier, guys, I'm super excited about this because I started in this whole game of self-publishing so many years ago. And things were not always as kind of what I think of as easy as they are today, so there were not as many, avenues. There were not a lot of choices about what you were doing out there when it came to this. So there was like Amazon, there was Smashwords, and you had to really know what you were doing, try to find these aggregators, distributors who could help you, and really try to get your product out there to readers, into the hands of readers. So I thought this would be a cool interview to do, because Smashwords to me is like, it was Smashwords, Mark. It was you. You were the one. You helped us as self-pubbed authors get our product into the hands of people. So for people who might not know, let's just start out with the basics and tell them who you are, Mark, and why did you even start Smashwords, first of all, but then tell people exactly what does Smashwords do for a self-published author?
Sure. Well, why don't I start with my story, because I think most writers could relate to my story. About 15 years ago, my wife and I wrote a novel together. My wife is a former reporter for Soap Opera Weekly magazine. And so we decided to write a novel about the behind the scenes world of daytime television soap operas and just the wild and wacky world. So we took a sabbatical from our work, moved down to Hollywood for a couple months, interviewed soap opera industry insiders for all their dirt, and then we wrote a novel together. And we'd never written a novel before. We had no clue what we were doing. The first draft of our novel was over 900 pages, and we thought it was just absolutely perfect. But then we learned what most writers learn is you've got to edit, you've got to revise, you've got to use editors, book doctors if you can. And finally, we got the book whipped into shape. We shopped it around to agents. We were lucky enough to get represented by Distel and Goderich at the time. They shopped us around to all the major publishers of commercial women's fiction. And for 2 years, they couldn't get us a publishing deal. And the common thread of feedback from the publishers was that previous novels that had targeted soap opera fans had not performed well in the marketplace, so they weren't going to publish us. And so there we were with this book that we had poured our hearts and souls into for 3 years. And we were being denied the opportunity to even be judged by readers. And, as you might imagine, it didn't sit well with me. This was the time where blogging was first coming on the scene really big. YouTube had just come out. And I was thinking, if you can self-publish a video on YouTube or self-publish your writing on a blog, why can't you self-publish a book? And what I quickly learned is that the publishing industry, well, in my opinion, it was broken. It had this view that, unless you were an accomplished author, or unless your book had the potential to sell maybe millions of copies, publishers didn't want to take a chance on you. And that just seemed wrong to me, because from my perspective, every writer in the world has a right to publish a book and let the readers decide what's worth reading. But at the time, publishers were deciding what readers could read. And my background is here in Silicon Valley, and born and raised here. And there's like this cultural thing in Silicon Valley, if you're raised here, that you kind of come to believe that all of the world's ills can be solved by technology. Now, as we've learned in recent years, technology exacerbates a lot of the world's ills. But my view was, well, here's a big problem. I imagined hundreds of thousands of writers around the world who were going to go to their graves with unpublished books. And I thought, well, how can we throw technology at this to solve the problem? And so I started thinking about ebooks. Ebooks are composed of just digital bits and bytes. They're easy to and cheap to produce. You can zap them around the world. They're accessible to anyone, anywhere. Why not allow people to publish ebooks? And I wanted to do it at no cost because I wanted to make book publishing accessible to every writer. The self-publishing systems and solutions that were available at the time all wanted to charge you thousands of dollars to fill up your garage with thousands of unsold print books. And so that was kind of the genesis of Smashwords. So in 2008, we launched Smashwords. Smashwords is a free ebook publishing platform. So we make it fast, free, and easy for any writer anywhere in the world to self-publish an ebook. All you need to do is upload a Microsoft Word file, and our technology converts that Microsoft Word file into multiple different ebook file types so that your book can be read on any e-reading device. We give you all the power. We let you price your book at whatever you want. You can distribute your book wherever you want. You control all your rights. So we were the self-publishing platform. So that was 2008. In 2009, our books, after our first year in business, by the end of 2008, we were publishing about 140 books from 90 authors. And I was just absolutely thrilled that 90 authors entrusted their precious books to us. But in a good day, we were only selling about $10 worth of books in our store. And we only take a commission of about 10%. So we were earning a whopping $1 a day. The business wasn't looking very good. And it dawned on me, and yes, it's okay if you call me a little slow, I realized that readers had never heard of Smashwords. Readers went to bookstores to buy books. So on the suggestion and urging of one of our authors, I struck up a conversation with Barnes & Noble and then with Sony, and to discuss them taking our books. And to my surprise, they wanted all of our books. And so in 2009, we made this crazy decision to become an ebook distributor. We knew nothing about distribution, but then nobody did at that time. In fact, the early ebook retailers didn't even know how to sell ebooks on their sites or to receive them. And so we were the first to open up Barnes & Noble and Sony to self-published ebooks. And then in 2010, we opened up Apple, and the rest is history. Every major ebook retailer wants to carry self-published books now. So that's our story in a nutshell. So today, we're probably the world's largest distributor of self-published books. We are publishing over 550,000 books by about 130,000 authors around the world. 50% of our sales are romance. We love romance.
I can imagine because, when you said 2008, I'm like, okay, because I started to get into this game around 2009. So, and it was really everybody that I knew when I started in this whole world of small press, digital press, self-publishing. Everybody was like, Angela, you got to put books on Smashwords. It was like you had two choices. It was, you were on Amazon, you were on Smashwords. And, one is like you just said, 550,000 books. You said 130,000 authors, 50% romance. It's like those are the things that when I'm talking to a lot of people about distribution, getting your books into the hands of readers, and we're talking about, whether you're like able to be accessed in the library lending systems, or like you said, you're opening the doors with Barnes & Noble and all of these things. A lot of the people that I talk with, right now, it's like, they're like, okay, yeah, I put my book on Amazon. Then, then the next question someone will ask them is like, okay, and who else? Because
right.
they don't think they need more than one. So, Can you explain that a little bit, Mark? You know,
Sure,
like
sure.
tell people why they need to be on more than one platform.
Yeah, well, let's talk for a moment about distribution. If we go back prior to the start of the indie author revolution around 2008, when we and Amazon launched, prior to that, book publishing was a print-centric business. Most books were sold through physical bookstores. And the dream of every writer was to get a traditional publisher to take you on and get your book into bookstores. So it was all about distribution. That is what publishers could do for you that you couldn't do for yourself. They got you into bookstores where readers bought books. And what the experience that most published authors found was that, you know, the day that their book landed in hundreds or thousands of bookstores, you know, there was a lot of elation. It's like, yay, I'm everywhere. But the experience for most authors then was that, you know, if your book didn't sell really well after the first couple weeks, the stores started packing up your books and shipping them back to the publisher for a full refund. And that basically started that downward spiral toward out of print. So it was all about distribution. When you started losing distribution, you lost sales, you lost visibility, and your book went out of print. So distribution is as important as it ever was, if not more important than ever, because distribution is what makes your book available to readers around the world. And everything changed with the advent of ebooks. So in the print world, physical bookstores were limited in the number of titles that they could carry in their store. You know, even a large Barnes and Noble might only be able to carry 50, 60,000 titles. Well, publishers were putting out close to 300,000 titles a year, so that forced the retailer to have to cycle the poor selling books out. So it forced a lot of authors to lose distribution, to go out of print before they really had a chance to find their audience. But with the advent of ebooks combined with self-publishing, with ebooks, retailers, the inventory, the shelf is now virtual. So they have unlimited inventory that they can stock on their virtual shelves. And if your book doesn't sell a single copy in a year at Barnes and Noble or Apple or Amazon, they're not going to take your book down. Your book is still discoverable. The retailers have always recognized and appreciated the value of having as many books as possible, as diverse as possible, but the economics of physical bookstores just didn't allow them to support every author. So ebooks changed that. Finally, it became possible for every book to land on that virtual shelf and stay there forever. Another really interesting thing is that in the olden days, prior to 10, 15 years ago, you know, most American authors were very focused on the American market. You know, the American market is the largest book market in the world, but there's a market for English language books outside our borders. You know, at Smashwords, about 40% of our sales are outside the United States. And ebooks made it possible for you to reach a global audience. You know, today there are billions of smartphones in people's pockets. Your books can now be just a couple clicks away from being discovered by virtually any potential reader in the world. If they have a smartphone, they have access to your books. So it dramatically expands your available audience.
You know, and that's one of the things that I actually learned firsthand myself, because I had some people in the UK who were trying to get their hands onto some of my books, and they were able to get some of them. They had to jump through some hoops, and then others, when they were trying to get, especially the print ones, they had to pay incredible amounts of money to get them. And so, you know, and this is one of the things that I talk about with a lot of self-pub authors who are just starting, is that, you know, the more avenues you have to get your book into the hand of potential readers, you know, just to get that digital storefront, you know, space where they can just see it, and you give them that chance to just, you know, have that impression where they can see it. Just having that reach makes a lot of sense to me, because I would like to, like you said, I would go into the local bookstores here in Memphis, And, they'd be like, oh, I would love to see my books on the shelves. And, you can strike up deals, or at least I have been able to locally, to get your book on the shelf. But it's just like you said, they buy a very small quantity, or they don't stay on the shelf for very long, because if they're not selling, and if they allow you to do an in-store event, you can push a couple of, pieces of product. But if you're not in the store, like, championing your book, like, hey, I'm Angela K. Austin, buy my book, is someone just walking into your local Barnes and Noble looking for it, So
Right.
having your book, out there, being able to having it distributed to where it can be in that digital space, to me, like you said before, the cost of it is not as expensive. You're, getting that wider distribution, you're getting it into, potentially getting it into more people's hands. It's just so many win-wins, especially
Right.
if you're just starting out. If you're just starting out and you may have smaller budgets to get your work out there, it's just so many win-wins, in my opinion. So
Right, right. When you move the shopping experience online, your product, your book becomes more discoverable
mhm,
because even if you think about like a Barnes and Noble, they've got themed shelves, but maybe one single Barnes and Noble might only have 40 or 50 different shelves.
mhm.
Well, there are literally thousands of different book categories and subcategories. And by putting your book online, available for sale as an ebook, your book can be discoverable by any reader anywhere. If they want to learn about some really niche category within their favorite category of books, they can find it, and they can find those shelves, and they can find the books they're looking for, just by you making your book available. You mentioned how a lot of authors make the mistake of just distributing to Amazon. I see that a lot. But what authors really need to understand is that there are a lot of other retailers and millions of customers that shop at other retailers. There's Apple Books. Apple is the world's second largest seller of ebooks. There's of course Barnes and Noble. There's Kobo. There's the Smashwords store. There are stores in Europe. You mentioned public libraries earlier. We opened up Overdrive, the world's largest library platform, about 7 years ago now. So your books can be available on Overdrive or any of the other leading library aggregators. So it's really a great thing that you can make your books findable by readers that are looking specifically for your type of book.
Yeah, and if I can just like co-sign that, because we all, as as authors, I know so many of us, we really do. You want to walk into that bookstore, be like, that's my book, and you want to stand beside it, you want to like hold it up and take a picture with it. But one of the things that I found as a self-pub author, when you said the word discoverable, it like that was so powerful to me, because when, as a self-published author, when I was able to get my books into the stores here, in Tennessee where I live, the thing about it is that they get shelved in one or two places. They're either going to be under African American, or they're going to be under independent or local. I think it's local. It's like they have a couple categories like that. But like you said, Mark, these niches, or just, why can't I just be shelved with romance? Because there's so many major publishers who have so many authors, and they are taking up that space. That real estate is full. It is full, you
Yeah,
know.
well, you bring up another interesting point. So in physical retail, often the publishers are paying for shelf space and shelf position, whereas that really doesn't happen in the ebook space. In the ebook space, with ebooks, your books are shelved on those virtual shelves side by side with the traditional publishers. So the reader doesn't know and really doesn't even care if you're self-published or not. All they care about is that, is this great writing or not?
It puts you on, a level playing field. I mean, of course, major publishers can buy, ads, and they can do all kinds of promotions and things like that. But it does level that playing field out just a little bit, at least I have found. So, for you guys out there who are like thinking, oh, I want print books, I just don't want ebooks or whatever, really think about it. It does level the playing field for you a little bit, I
Yeah,
found.
and you can do both. You can do both. What most, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, most self-published authors, sell a lot more ebooks than they do print books,
Yes.
just because of the convenience, the lower cost, the accessibility. I mean, ebooks deliver instant reading pleasure as soon as that customer decides they want to read your book.
Yeah.
Easier sampling.
Everything. And that actually brings up something I wanted to ask. Something I want to put in, I'm going to put a tack in, because I have seen how much Smashwords itself is promotional at different events that I go to. But before we get to that, because I really wanted to ask you just a little bit about why you do that, because a lot of people, well, you're one of the only ones I've ever seen do that. but when it comes to your the Smashwords store, I don't know the answer to this. Does Smashwords have its own e-reader? Like, so if people do purchase from the Smashwords store, what is the interface for that? What does that look like?
Great question. We don't have our own e-reader, but this is the way it works. When you upload your book to Smashwords as a Microsoft Word document, our system converts that into EPUB, MOBI, PDF, and other formats so that your book can be read on any e-reading device. So with a single purchase, the customer can read the book on their own Kindle, on their iPhone, on their Nook, anything they want.
I wondered about that because, and that's because, that's something too, guys. Like, one of the things when I first got into this eons ago, it feels like now, formatting for an ebook I felt like was so daunting for me. It took me a minute, and now even I still use the software. I use Scrivener, but that was one of the big learning curves for me as a self-pub author. So I love that you said you can just upload a Microsoft Word. Pro tip, people, if somebody will let you upload Microsoft Word and do all the formatting for you, take advantage of it. Because that was something that was really in the beginning for me, because so many of my friends would do it manually, and they would try to show me how to, your margins need to be this, so that this, that, and the other, and you want to make sure that the flow of it is a certain way, so you don't have all these big breaks and gaps. So that was a real learning curve for me.
Yeah, well, it still is for a lot of authors. And just to be clear, you can't just upload any Word doc to Smashwords and have it come out as a beautiful book. I wrote a book, an ebook. It's available for free at every retailer, called the Smashwords Style Guide. And it teaches you how to format and design your ebook in Microsoft Word step by step so that you can have a book that looks beautiful. So you still need to make the effort to professionally design your book before you upload it to us. For authors that are just intimidated by that, or they don't want to spend the hours it takes to really tame the multi-headed hydra that is Microsoft Word, you can hire formatters, professional formatters. I've got a list at Smashwords. They're fellow Smashwords authors, often for as low as $50, they'll prepare your novel for you. But I would encourage everyone to learn how to do the formatting themselves, because it really is pretty easy once you know, and then it gives you a lot of flexibility, greater control over your book if you ever need to update your book without having to go hire someone. That's nice.
It's funny that you say that, because I was on the phone with a friend of mine the other day, and she was updating her Smashwords books that she distributes. And I'm like, because I'm looking at going wide, and I'm like, okay, you're going to have to, show me what all the different steps are that I need to be doing. But she did her changes and updates, and it was just like, boom, and that's the thing when you know what you're doing. For me, I am using a software as I continue to learn and grow on this journey, people. But it's just really interesting once you do it a couple of times, because the people who I've taught my software to, they hate it. They don't want to do it. They want to do it manually, and then they upload. But it's just that fact that you have that ability within Smashwords, that you have this and people can do it, because it does. When you are doing or in the self-publishing game, and everything is a fee, so even if a formatter is only charging $50, you could go and get cover art for $100. So
Right.
that could be, if they take the time and read the style guide and learn, then you could cut that fee out and keep it, and put it on something else.
Well, exactly, because it's really important for self-published authors to recognize that you are running a business, and most books don't sell well. Even if you're a traditionally published author, they don't sell well. And the secret to building a sustainable business is for your sales to exceed your expenses. So when you're first starting out here, I really encourage writers to do as much themselves as they can. And you're right, it's only $50, but that's your book. Your first book may not sell $50.
That is very true, my people. Very, very true. And speaking of that, before I get into some of these other questions, including the promotion question, can you tell us a little bit about royalties when it comes to Smashword?
Sure.
How does that break out? Because, everybody's always afraid and they're always concerned. And if they have multiple platforms, what does that mean for them and their royalties?
Yeah, I can break it down real simple. So we are a free service. We make our money on commission. So if you publish a book with Smashwords, we only make money if your book sells somewhere. So if your book sells in the Smashwords store, you're going to earn, depending on the list price of your book, up to 80% list is your royalty. So the Smashwords store probably pays the highest in the industry among major retailers. But most of our sales are through our distribution network to the major retailers and library platforms. So the way that works is that the retailer typically takes 30% right off the top. So if, let's say your book, for simplicity, is $10. So the retailer will take $3. Smashwords will take $1, so 10% of the list price, and then you get $6 or 60% of the list price. And that's generally the case for any price book. So even a 99-cent book, you're going to earn 59, 60 cents.
Yeah, 99-cent books. Ooh. That's a whole nother conversation I would have with so many self-pub authors out there, but not my favorite thing.
Oh, but, well, yeah, I'm not encouraging that price. We've done a lot of analysis over the years of the sweet spots for pricing. Mm-hmm. And for most self-published authors, $3.99 is the sweet spot for full-length fiction. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's $2.99, sometimes up to $4.99. If you're a big author with a bigger brand name, you can charge more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that actually takes us that's a great segue into the promotion question before I get into some of the others. But one of the reasons that a lot of self-pub authors, they use the 99-cent price point because there's so many Facebook groups and so many blogs and so many things that you can be a part of if your book is a part of, the unlimited program on Amazon, or if your book is a 99-cent book. And so many of them use it as a promotional tool to get their books into the hands of more readers. I've always been a little leery of it just because I come from a marketing background. I have a master's in marketing and I've worked as a marketer for about 25 years or so. And,
awesome.
And thank you. But so
my background's marketing as well.
See, so maybe you can understand kind of like my hesitation, but I hate creating a mindset of certain things, because then sometimes it kind of bleeds over into what people see as the quality of product as well. So I tend to stay away from some things. But one of the reasons that I do like Smashwords is because I have attended a lot of events, whether it used to be Romantic Times or some of these other things that I've done. And guys, one of the things that I see with Smashwords is like, there would always be like some sort of promotion with Smashwords. One of the ones that I do remember used to be like a thumb drive with different
yes.
on it and things like that. And I've been to a lot of events. Like I said, I've been doing this now for many years, and I've seen publishers do that, but I have not seen, and you can let me know if you've seen other people do this, and I just may not have been at that event, but I haven't seen other distributors who have done stuff like that and who've been promotional in that kind of way. So why you guys? Why did you do it, Mark? I mean, why?
Well, so you're referring to the Smashwords thumb drives, and this is something, and you mentioned RT, so RT Book Lovers. I missed that conference. We attended that conference every year, and every year at RT, we would do a promotional thumb drive for them, and we would include on that thumb drive hundreds of free ebooks from Smashwords authors who wanted to promote their books to the readers that attended RT. Yeah, we became part of the entire process for RT. Every year we did that like clockwork, and we've done it for other conferences as well. We just saw it as an opportunity to celebrate the voices of self-published authors to the audiences, and the thumb drives were very popular.
They were incredibly popular. You would always hear people talking about it, like, oh yeah, and yeah, because when you go to an event like Book Lovers, you have people who are book lovers,
Yes.
so people have huge to be read lists, TBR lists. So things like that were always just popular. And I just never seen other people do it who weren't publishers or authors who had come together to do promotional events around things like that.
It would be difficult for a lot of other folks to do because we're able to leverage our technology, leverage the massive author base that we have at Smashwords, especially for the romance conferences. We had just so many romance books and so many great best-selling authors who wanted to participate in these drives. We had the ability to produce a high-value drive that got readers really excited. We still do that promotion at other conferences from time to time.
I know it was popular, and I know a lot of people always talked about it, and I thought it was a cool thing for a distributor to do. I like that, because even when you talk about small press publishing, now I primarily self-pub, but I've been with 3 small press publishers over the years that I've been out here. They've all gone under shutter for different reasons. My last publisher is currently shuttering her doors, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get all those books and put those back out there. And so that's like, none of them were ever at these events doing these types of things. So I just thought it was a really cool thing that for a self-published author who's always looking for ways to get their books into the hands of readers, that's one more thing that you don't necessarily have to, fret over, because you have a distributor who's working with you to help you do things like that. So I thought that was really cool.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so I have these are some technical questions. So
Okay.
We've already kind of talked to people about royalties and things like that. Now, one of the questions that I always get from people is about ISBN. They're like, well, Angela, why do I need to go to Bowker? Do I need to pay for that? Why can't I just use the ISBN from the distribution platform? So I always give them, tell them different answers based off of which platform they want to use, or if they want to use one platform or whatever, right? But what would you say to people, Mark? Because I know Smashwords offers free,
Right.
ISBNs. Can you tell them anything about, the difference in your ISBN or
Sure.
ASIN or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, an ISBN is a 13-digit numerical identifier that gets attached to your book, and it's how those of us in the supply chain communicate about your book. So when we ask a retailer to raise the price of Angela's book, we're not saying raise the price of Angela's book. We're saying raise the price or lower the price of the book that's attached to this unique ISBN number. Now, an ASIN, that's an Amazon specific identifier that you can't use anywhere else. So an ISBN is this 13-digit digital identifier that gets attached to your book. You want to have a different ISBN for your ebook than you do for your print book. So you've got 2 options for getting an ISBN. If you work with Smashwords, we offer free ISBNs. But if you want to own your own ISBN, you can buy them from Bowker if you're an American author. If you're a Canadian author, you can get free ISBNs there. So the difference between the two ISBNs, they're both perfectly great ISBNs, and at Smashwords, we're agnostic. So as long as you're bringing us an ISBN that's unique to your book, whether you got it, if you got it from Bowker, that's fine. Or if you get it from us, that's fine. But the difference between the two ISBNs is that when you get an ISBN at Bowker, it identifies you as the publisher of record for that book. Now, that it doesn't give you any special legal rights. And when I talk to authors, what they tell me is all that publisher designation gets them at Bowker is they get listed in the Bowker books in print, which means you're going to get a lot of junk mail, people trying to solicit you. But if it's important to you that your name is listed as the publisher in the ISBN, and also keep in mind that readers aren't ever going to see this. They're not going to know that you got your ISBN at Bowker or somewhere else. If you get your ISBN at Smashwords, it's going to list Smashwords as the publisher. Now, that does not mean that we are your publisher. It just means that we are the service that put your book out. So ISBNs don't have anything to do with copyright. If someone like Smashwords issues you an ISBN, it's your ISBN. We have no claim or control over your book. So it really doesn't matter. If you want to pay money, go to Bowker. If you want it for free, you can get it from us. Or if you're working with a different distributor, you can get the ISBN from them. But ISBNs are important if you're working with Smashwords because it'll help you maximize your distribution. If you've got an ISBN at Smashwords, it allows us to distribute you to more places. For example, library platforms typically will not take your book unless it has an ISBN attached to it.
And see, that's interesting. So the when it comes to, because we've been hinting a little bit to the distribution, being and libraries and stuff. And so in this ISBN question, telling me a little bit more, just even, but how many, like when it comes to distribution for Smashwords, where all do you distribute to? Like, what are the major places? So when people, and of course, I know people can look this up. You guys can look this up on the website, okay? But we have Mark here, so let's ask him. So which places? Where do you go? Where do the books?
And say hello to Dizzy.
I saw him.
So that's Dizzy, and this is Tucker. I've never done an interview with a cat on my lap, but he's quite content there. So we distribute to Apple, Barnes & Noble, Kobo. Those are the largest retailers that we distribute to. We distribute a small number of books to Amazon, but not very many. Whereas we're distributing over 300,000 books to each of those other retailers, we're only doing a couple hundred books to Amazon. We distribute to public library platforms, so the largest of which is Overdrive. We also distribute to Cloud Library and Odeo, which is another smaller library platform. We distribute to Gardeners, which is in the UK, and they and once you get your book into Gardeners, your book is available in UK libraries, and then also distributed into Europe and into what was formerly known as Tolino. Tolino used to operate a network of retailers in Germany. Now Gardeners is supplying our books to that former network. So those are some of the major retailers. And of course, there's the Smashwords store too. We're unusual among distributors in that we also operate our own store because that's where we had our roots. We started with a store before we were a distributor. And so, yeah, definitely don't miss out on the Smashwords store. Our store has been growing now. That we're looking at probably, this will be the 4th consecutive year of growth in our store, which just tickles me pink because a lot of retailers are seeing their ebook sales decline over the last few years. The pandemic aside, ebook sales have really surged in the last few months thanks to COVID-19.
It's like everybody I know is busily searching for new authors and new whatever, and everybody's reading everything they can get their hands on. So when, in this question, I'm trying to figure out the right way to say it, but when someone is, in your opinion, as someone who's been doing this since 2008, someone who is new to self-publishing, like if they said to you, you know, Mark, how should I start with this whole thing of distribution? Where
Yeah.
should I be? How do I start this? What would you
Well,
say to
so
them?
when a new author asks me that question, what I recommend is that they use Smashwords, self-serving answer, but use us to distribute to the major retailers and library platforms, and then also upload your book to Amazon. So with a single upload to Amazon and a single upload to Smashwords, well, that's not single, that's two. So 2 uploads total, you will have the world covered. You will have most of the world covered between our 2 platforms. So Amazon's the world's largest seller of ebooks. They're not friendly to distributors such as Smashwords, so you kind of have to work with them direct. But just be careful when you upload to Amazon. Do not enroll your book in their special program called KDP Select. If you enroll your book in KDP Select, they require that you make your book exclusive to Amazon for a period of 3 months. You can't even sell your book on your own website. And, you know, KDP Select is popular with a lot of authors, but when your book is exclusive to that single platform, it means you don't get to benefit from all these other retailers and all the millions of customers that could be somewhere else.
Yeah.
And you also, you want to diversify your distribution, because you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. If you are paying your mortgage entirely on your Amazon sales because you are exclusive there, if Amazon rolls over in the night and changes their algorithm, they might crush you. And you wake up the next day and your sales have dried up. So it's good to have diversified distribution, because what you'll find is that your sales will ebb and flow at different retailers at different times for reasons that you can't even describe, you know, as different reading groups discover your books. So it's nice to have multiple income streams coming in.
And again, I'm going to back that up. And I back that up because I have I call them my author tribe, and we share information back and forth all the time. And one of the things that we talk about is whether or not we're going to go wide, or if we're going to be in KDP Select, you know, if we're going to be Kindle Unlimited, you know. And so often, again, a lot of authors will do that because, you know, we're always looking for, you know, free promotion. How do we get our books out there? And so a lot of us, we will enroll our books in those programs because we see it as a way of, you know, readers being able to quickly get their hands on our books because of the recommendations and the algorithms and all kinds of other things that pushes it. So, and, you know, because, you know, it's such a major player in this space, you know, and so a lot of us don't go wide because you feel like, oh, I'm getting all these page reads, you know. And so we challenge each other and we're like, okay, just put one book wide or put one book, you know, and we continue to do that so that we can all continue to learn and grow and see what's working for us as an individual self-pub author. Because like you say, you know, that discoverability, you know, that we were talking about earlier, and being able to go wide allows you to just be on more platforms and just potentially have more resources, because, you know, iBooks is different, and, you know, whatever, you know, these are all such different platforms. And so just being able to put get your product into as many hands as possible.
Yeah, you know, I'm not a big fan of Amazon KDP Select, and not just because people like to think of us as a competitor to them. I never liked considering Smashwords as a competitor to Amazon, because as a distributor, we're here to partner with every retailer.
Mm-hmm.
We want to help every retailer be successful selling our books. But, you know, as we've seen in self-publishing over the last 12 years, you know, when we first launched Smashwords, self-published authors called themselves self-published authors, but within a couple years, they started self-identifying as indie authors, independent authors. Well, when you make your book exclusive to Amazon, you're no longer an independent author. They strip you of your independence. They strip you of your control. They strip you of your ability to price your own book. So your book can be priced at $9.99, but it goes into Kindle Unlimited. They don't care what the price is.
Mm-hmm.
They're only going to pay you your half penny or less per page. And I resist any force in the industry that tries to take power away from authors. I think you should be in control. You should be able to determine what your book is worth.
This is one of the things that we talk about because, like you said, it's like if you have your book, and so many of us, we all have different pricing strategies, right? So, if you have your book priced in a certain way, if you do that unlimited or KDP select, then you are at that 0.00, and you're going to get that 0.006 or whatever it is, per page read. So, you do have to be mindful. And so, because so many authors, so many of us do different things, whether it's like rapid release promotion or whether it's anthologies and, book, collections. There's so many different things that we're all trying, and we're all trying to figure out how to make it work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you talked about your resistance to the 99-cent price point out of concern. I would infer that that it devalues your work in the eyes of the reader. Well, look at any book page at Amazon where the book is priced at 99 cents or $3.99, and the way Amazon merchandises that book is that read this book for free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they're making even 99-cent books look expensive. They are training their customers to think that books should feel like free. And this has exerted massive devaluation pressure that is really decimating the incomes of a lot of authors.
Yeah.
You get readers now who will tell an author, I'm not going to read your book unless you make it available for free in Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah.
And that is so long-term corrosive to your career when readers no longer want to purchase books, pay money for books, when they view your book as worth free.
Yeah. And this is something, guys, for all my indie published authors out there, this is something that you really have to figure out for yourself, because I've talked with so many people about it. And like I said, I don't do much, KDP. I think I have one book there. I don't do 99 cents because, these are things that I have done research on for myself. I don't feel like it fits with me and the product that I produce. But, like I said, a lot of people, especially if they do series, they step the price up and they start this one at 99 or $1.09, or there's so many things out there, which is why I advise you to use more than one platform for your distribution, because, Mark, like we were saying before, Smashwords, you are promotional with your tool, right? And, when we have our books on different platforms, I feel like it allows us to learn from each platform, right? We're going to see what you're doing and how Smashword promotes, and we're going to look at the Smashword store. We're going to see, we're going to be able to learn from the part, because I look at everybody that I work with as a partner. So, I'm going to learn from Smashwords as a partner. Wait, look at what they're doing. Okay, so why isn't this other one doing it? Okay, why is it? And it's like, and it helps you to kind of create your own marketing strategy, I think, so that as you grow and you move forward, you start to tweak it and do different things. And, right now I'm working on a book that I'm putting out, and my friends, I'm like, yep, going wide. It's going to be, this is what we're doing, and so, literally, like I was saying before, I had that conversation with a friend of mine who was updating her Smashwords on the phone with me and like just showing me, I'm like, yeah, this is what we're talking about, and this is what we do. We learn from each other as indie authors, but we're also learning from the partners whom we're working with,
Sure. I should point out that at Smashwords, we've created a lot of marketing tools that you can use.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you've heard of the Smashwords Coupon Manager. Have you heard of that?
No, I haven't. What is this one?
Okay, so Well, I'm really excited about this. We've been doing coupons at Smashwords since almost the very beginning. So at Smashwords, for the Smashwords store only, you can create custom coupon codes for your books. And you can do cents off, dollars off. Um, you can set the expiration date. You can do what we call metered coupons, so you can limit the number of redemptions. So you can like do a promotion to your readers and say, okay, the first 50 readers to take advantage of this deal, get it, and then it automatically expires. If you've got 50 books at Smashwords and you want to put them all on sale for a limited period of time, we've got a new capability where you can create a single coupon code that works across all your titles at Smashwords. So there's really no limit to the promotional flexibility with these coupons. If you want to make your book available to reviewers, you can do that using the Smashwords tool, so you can offer reviewers a free redemption of their book. We also do several annual sales at Smashwords that you can enroll in. So there's the annual Read an Ebook Week that happens in March. There's the July Summer Winter Sale, which is the entire month of July. There's the Smashwords End of Year Sale. And these are collaborative marketing events where thousands of authors join together and enter into this promotion. And so you've got thousands of authors promoting their books at the same time, and every single reader that they bring in to promote their book is benefiting all the other authors that are participating in the sale. And then we also have a cool self-serve tool, self-serve merchandising tool that makes it possible for a lot of authors to have their book featured on the Smashwords homepage. So we have coupons that are two types of coupons. There's a private coupon. So the only way for the reader to know that your book has this coupon code attached to it is if you share it to them. Like if you want to give a private coupon code to the readers in your on your newsletter. But we also have public coupons, and just by doing a public coupon, your book is promoted on our site as on sale, and then your book can also have a chance of appearing in we've got on the homepage a bookshelf, a virtual bookshelf of books that are on sale, and taking advantage of this tool. Another thing that we do at Smashwords, and this is completely new and it's unique and no one else does this, end of last year, we announced something called Smashwords pre-sales. We even applied for a patent for it. So pre-sales allow you to make your book available to readers in advance of your public release date. So let's say you want to allow subscribers to your newsletter to purchase your book early, like a day early or a week early. You can run a pre-sale. And when you run a pre-sale, we give the customer the option to subscribe to your private newsletter. So we can help you build your platform that way. You know, a lot of authors have followers across social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And although they're following you, you don't know who they are, you don't have their contact information. And so this tool helps you capture them into your private newsletter. So we're pretty excited about that as well.
And is that like a fee structure attached to those at all, Mark? Or those?
No, it's free.
What I love about that is because as you were describing the coupon tool and even the capturing the information for newsletters, there are like two different platforms I currently use to do just those things, right? Because I use one platform to send out art copies of a book and to, give out coupons so people can get a free copy of a book. There's another one that I use to help me build my newsletter, and by promoting sales promotions, so I can use a universal code and send it out there and do whatever. And so as you were saying that, I'm like, you're talking about a newsletter building campaign, and, using pre-sales to do, and helping to build a newsletter. You're talking about giving away free books and art copies and stuff like that. I mean, that would be all comprised, contained in one platform, which would be right. Our Smashwords, author profile. Whereas now I'm doing that using like 2 other platforms, you
Yeah.
know. So
Why are you making life more difficult than it needs to be?
that was my question to myself, Mark, but you put me out there. You just asked it. So, but
Yeah,
that's exactly
but
it, you know, because we don't know, you know, because, you know, everybody doesn't get the chance to sit down and interview Mark Coker, right? You know, everybody, so you have to go through each website, you have to go through each tool to see what, because right now, literally, I'm getting rid of some tools and trying to consolidate so I can, you know, not have so many things. But as a indie author, you are learning as you grow. So you're going
right.
out there kind of snatching up everything until somebody says to you, why are you making life so hard, Angela? You know, and then you cut some
Yeah.
stuff out.
Well, I would say that self-publishing today, especially for the new writer who's just getting started,
Mhm.
is so much more confusing than it was back in 2008.
Probably, yeah.
Because, in 2008, you really only had 2 options.
Yep.
There was Smashwords and Amazon.
Yep.
Now there are a million options. And because self-publishing has become such a big business, you've got thousands of businesses adding complexity so that they can make money and participate in this industry. And there's almost too much choice. I imagine that a lot of new authors today feel like I feel when I go to the grocery store to buy laundry detergent. There's 50 different brands. How do I choose which one is right? It's
Mhm.
confusing. And to me, it becomes paralyzing. And I just like stare at the detergent like a deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
I don't know what to buy. And so that's kind of the way it is in self-publishing today. There's so many options, and there are a lot of really great, interesting tools. It sounds like you're using some of them,
Mhm.
and some of them overlap with others and some don't, but it's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah, it is. And every year, like you said, there's a new product, there's a new tool, you know, and you have to figure out, do I really need this? You know? And, you know, everybody always has like a free version of it and a paid version. So before you know, you just end up having subscriptions to all of these
Yeah.
things, you know, and you don't
Well,
even realize that you know, you can do it all on another platform.
yeah. Our philosophy at Smashwords, and this comes from me, um, we don't like taking money from authors. We won't take money from authors. We don't want to sell you marketing packages or services. Uh, we want everything to be free. We only want to make money if you make money. And that is really in the spirit of traditional publishers. Traditional publishers, the money flows just one way. It should flow from the reader to you.
Mhm.
And there are too many businesses out there that aren't making money selling books. They're making money selling stuff to authors. And I think that's wrong.
Yeah. No, and it's so true. And then, you know, and just to kind of piggyback out, you know, on that again, Mark, when I started in this, there were, you know, like you said, it was Amazon, it was Smashwords, and you had all your small press publishers and stuff, but you also had these vanity press publishers, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like you said, it was these businesses were making their money off of people like me who wanted to put our books out there, you know. And so if you weren't picked up by a traditional publisher or a small press publisher and you were too afraid, you know, just didn't know what to do to get your book out there on your own, you ended up with these vanity press, you know, and
Yeah.
people
These,
just
Author Solutions and all their sock puppet brands, just
it's like
fleecing authors.
yes, and you know, and then like you said earlier, you'd end up having a trunk filled with books or a garage filled with books because you never sold not one of them, you know,
Yeah.
and it's just
Well,
like
and
that
and
thing.
the reason you couldn't sell them, it's not because you were a sucky author. It's because you didn't have distribution.
Didn't
So
have
you didn't
distribution.
have a chance.
Yeah, you never had a chance, but it's not sold to you that way because you have
No.
all the little boxes that you can tick off. And so you think that you're, you know, you're doing it. And then
Yeah.
you
They take advantage. They say, oh, here, buy this $10,000 marketing package. And you think,
yep,
oh, I'm making an investment in my career. Well,
yep,
no, you're sending a lot of money to a call center in the Philippines.
That's it. Because you could do every single thing that you paid them to do on your own. You
Yeah.
just have to take time to figure out how to do it, you know, and trust me, it does take time.
Yeah, it does take time. And see, that's the thing. You know, there's no quick silver bullet to becoming a bestseller. The secret to becoming a bestseller is to learn professional publishing best practices. And it's, you know, it's what I teach in my books. All my books are free. It's what I teach in my podcast, the Smart Author Podcast. Um, it's these are the, you know, professional best publishing best practices. These are the things that you can do today. They're going to work today, and they're going to work tomorrow, and they're going to work 10 years from now, because these are the essential basics of professional publishing. And that's what you really need to focus on. And most authors don't. Like, for example, one of the most powerful best practices for book launches is to release your book as a pre-order. All right. And we've been promoting pre-orders for the last 7 years. And we have hard data that we've shared with the world every single year about how books that are released as pre-orders sell a ton more books than books that are just simply uploaded the day of release. Yet, here's a startling statistic, and this is recent data from just a couple months ago. Close to 90% of self-published authors don't release their book as a pre-order. It's because these authors have not really learned to appreciate best practices, or, you know, they just don't know yet. So, you know, we do everything we can to share these best practices, and, you know, and we encourage authors that understand these best practices to share these best practices with their friends. You know, don't let your friend release their next ebook without doing it as a pre-order first, because pre-order books sell more. That's just kind of a no-brainer. That's an example of a best practice. Another best practice: don't try to design your own cover when you can, you know, hire someone for $50 or $100 and get a cover that looks as good or better than what the New York publishers are putting out. So, you know, there are a lot of best practices. They're available if people will take the time to learn them. And it's really the best investment you can make in your career is to try to learn these best practices.
It's so funny that you say that, because like I said, this book that I'm going to be releasing soon will be the first time I've done a pre-order.
Awesome.
It's like, I was dragged.
Well, I'm here to drag you. I'm here to get you to do that pre-order. And did you know that?
It was one of those things of learning, though. You know what I mean? Nobody has ever said to me, hey, Angela, 90% of self-pub authors don't do this. You know what I mean? It's like, because, you know, that's the thing about having a tribe and having partners who can teach you. Because if you don't know, you don't know. You know, and as a marketer, I believe in a sale. You never have to tell me about promotion, sales promotion, ad buying, distribution. You never have to tell me about that. But I was just like, as an indie author, somebody needs to tell me why I need to have pre-orders, because I'm gonna do promotion, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and no one could put it into I don't know, no one could put it into a concept to where I was like, okay, good, I got that, I'm gonna do that. You know what I mean? No one could. Nobody could vocalize it for me.
Well, because most authors aren't doing it. Most authors don't know. And it's not because these authors are stupid. It's because there's just so much to learn. And we all start at the beginning. You know, I mentioned how my wife and I, when we did our first book, we were total newbies. We were clueless. We didn't know anything. And you learn by doing. You learn by making mistakes. You learn by, you know, reading everything you can, talking with other authors, seeing what's working, what's not. But, you know, I would say, you know, in recent years, you know, this 10% stat that I gave you, one of the reasons it concerns me so much is that we've observed that pre-order adoption has dropped the last couple of years. It used to be, with the last time we measured this about 3 years ago, it was approaching 15%. And for every year prior to that, the adoption was increasing. You know, I'm concerned that authors are starting to have the wrong conversations with one another, you know, and they're not talking about what really matters. So, you know, a lot of the conversations I see going on online is, well, how do I do Amazon ads?
Mhm.
Well, that's kind of the wrong conversation to have, because Amazon ads is corrosive to your long-term potential as well. It is a tax on your earnings. Or how do I increase the visibility in KU? Well, KU is potentially corrosive to your long-term potential. And so I think a lot of the conversation has kind of strayed from best practices and what really matters. And you know, hopefully the conversation can return to things that really matter.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to um, us teaching each other, because a
Yes.
lot of people they don't sign up for master classes or things like that. They kind of follow what they see other authors doing. So we learn, we do, and then someone else will teach someone else and they'll follow. Because, like I said, as a marketer, I'm all about people buying ads, but you have to understand who your reader is, what your product is, so you can actually buy ads in what I consider to be a proper manner across multiple platforms, taking advantage of various promotions. But it's like a lot of my people that I talk to, and we talk about these things, it's like it's money spent, right? And so, and especially if you're talking about like if you talk about Facebook ads or Amazon ads, and you're talking about click through, you know, if you do a Facebook ad, you might have a little bit better click through rate. And your expenses might be a little bit lower, maybe, just because of the nature of Facebook. Whereas like Amazon, because of the way that you set the ads up around keywords, you might have like a crazy high click-through rate, but then your sales are not good. And so then you've got this big bill at the end of a month or something. And so people get scared and then they stop doing things. But it's just all about, what kind of ads are you running? What are the purpose of the ads? Are the ads promoting your 99-cent book? I hope not, people. Don't run an ad promoting the 99-cent book. But, if you don't know advertising, or you haven't taken some sort of master class, you very well might be running an ad on a 99-cent, or worse yet, a free book. Don't run an ad on a Kindle Unlimited book.
Well, I'm sure you know this with your experience in marketing, but one of the big challenges with advertising is that a lot of these ad platforms are based on an auction model. So in order for you to get one of those prime slots, the first, second, third, fourth featured book on your keyword or whatever, you've got to pay for that. And so you've got all of these authors bidding against one another for those prime spots, because if you're 10 spots down or 20 spots down, no one's going to see you. So the price of that click is being bid up, and it's often and it's just the economics of this. That price is going to get bid to the point where there's no marginal income on the other side of it. I mean, that's the way these ecosystems are designed to work. So it becomes a zero-sum game at a certain point. And then you've got a lot of authors who are seeing that book that they're promoting as their loss leader. So, it's the first book in my series. And so authors will think, well, I'm okay losing money on that first book, because after they read my first book, they're going to buy my other books. Well, so what they're doing is they're bidding up that ad beyond the value of the ad, especially if you're just a single title author, or you're not writing series. And it just continues to drive up the cost and reduce the effectiveness of the advertising. I'm not necessarily opposed to all advertising. I just think that, authors need to do that with eyes wide open and understanding, the risks and potential downsides.
Yeah, marketing was my career, my life, my bread and butter for so many years. So I'm not opposed to advertising. But when you say an auction model, I hope that resonates with some people, because like when BookBook first became very, very popular, that was one of the most well-known platforms for that kind of a model. And I think I have like maybe 100 followers on BookBub. I'm not very active on it because, but you know, I never found the algorithm to really be beneficial for me in my marketing. But I know other people who say that it has, you know. Um, so it does. I mean, I think you're right in that it, you know, it's something that you really, really have to don't just throw your money at it. You know, if you
Yeah.
guys hear my voice,
Yeah.
don't just throw your money at it. Look for partners like Smashwords, you know, who has programs that you can utilize, and try to structure your marketing in a way to where you are, you know, really, you know, reaching out to the audience who's looking for your product, who's really engaged, who wants what you have to sell, you know, and you know, I think you'd be a lot happier with your marketing and your advertising,
Yeah.
if, you know, if you could structure it in a certain way to where you're not just losing money.
Well, and here's another tip. Like, you know, I know a lot of authors will put in all their effort to write their book, and, you know, and plan ahead of time that they're going to invest so many thousands of dollars in marketing. Um, if you're getting ready to publish a book and you've got a couple $1,000s burning a hole in your pocket, I would encourage you to invest that money in professional book editing instead, because your book's quality is the best marketing possible. Because the best marketing possible is reader word of mouth. You know, if your book just knocks the socks off the reader, if it takes them to an emotionally satisfying extreme, then your book is going to sell itself on the wings of reader word of mouth. And any advertising investment that you do down the line is going to be that much more effective. But, you know, so often authors try to market themselves out of market their way out of a problem that really, you know, they should have focused first on making that book even better. And that's what you can do with professional editing. You know, a professional editor is going to take your great book and make it even greater.
I agree with you 100%. That's one of the things that I talk with people about all the time. It's like, if you can save $1 over here, then you can put that on your graphic art, you can put that on your editing, because what a lot of us will do is we'll do the 99-cent pricing or KDP, and then, you know, we won't pay for an editor. You know, and so you'll promote it and you'll put this low price point on it, and you won't pay for an editor, and then, you know, people won't like your finished product, you know, but you've tried all these other kind of tools to get your book into the hand of the reader. So
Right.
I agree with that. I agree with that, you know, and guys, you know, I know we are all out there trying to be, you know, self-sustaining authors. We want to have that dream of living off of our royalties. I know it. I hear you. I'm right there with you, you know, but it doesn't necessarily have to be done overnight. You know, we can build, we can grow. I've been doing this since 2008, 2009. I'm out there with Mark. We've been doing this for a long time, but you know, the one thing that I've never thought it would be some sort of an overnight success thing. I've always loved writing. It's been a passion of mine. And right now
Great.
I'm actually working on a master's in writing. And so I love
Nice.
everything about, I love writing. I love everything about writing, you know, and, you know, but one of the things that I do want is to make sure that I'm giving people a story that I'm happy with, even if the readers are like, what did she just do? But I can be like, yes, I love everything about that. And so I love having partners who can teach me and help me so I can, you know, get stronger in all the other pieces, because, you know, it does take away so many of us when we're writing, you know, when you have to think about all the other pieces, Mark, you feel like you're like, oh, why do I have to do this and that? And why do I have to learn one more of this? Which is why so many of us use one platform. You know,
Right.
why so many of us, you know, create our own cover art and don't worry about editors, because we want to write and we want to get the book out there, you know. And so, but when you have to stop and think about a strategy, you know, and you have to think about, you know, beyond one platform, and you have to think about all these other things, it takes away, I think, for some people, some of the joy of just writing and getting the product out there. And so we look for shortcuts or quick fixes or
Yep.
gimmicks, you know, and that's just the reality. That's just what we do,
But Angela, let's look at you as an example. You've been doing this for many years now. You haven't given up. You're the type of author that is going to have a long-term sustainable career in this because you're writing for the love of it. Every word that you write is nourishing your soul. And so often I'll see writers who self-publish, and they get this idea, oh well, I saw this other self-published author sold 1 million copies or became a New York Times bestseller, and that's going to be me. And then their initial sales don't meet their expectations, and they feel like they're a failure, and then they give up. And what I tell writers is the only way to fail in self-publishing is to give up. And if you're writing what you love, then you can sustain yourself forever. And you are much more likely to achieve that commercial success that we all want because you're doing what you have passion for.
Yeah. And I agree with that, guys. If you are out there and you're listening to Mark and I as we're having this discussion, you're watching it on YouTube, you're listening on the podcast, that is something that I believe is so true. If you love writing, if you love creating stories, don't stop. Keep learning, keep looking for partners, keep, building your author tribe, keep looking for a way to get your product out there once you finish it. Because I'm telling you, I feel like it's worth it. Every time, I don't care if I see my book in a digital store, Mark, or if I walk into, a brick and mortar, which none of us are doing right now anyway, but when I finish it, and even as a marketer, I used to tell people, my jazz was when that commercial was on air or on the radio and I'm in my car and then I'm like, what? That's my work. I did that. I'm jazzed off of it. I like to see something come from nothing to like a reality. That's my jazz. I love that. So for all the people out there listening, Mark, I have to say thank you. This has been such an awesome conversation. And now I will do pre-sales, Mark. My next book will be pre-sales. It's,
pre-sales and pre-orders.
Pre-sales and pre-orders, and I'm going to go wide. So I am like learning so much about, just kind of making that a real thing for me. Because I only have a couple of books that are what people would consider wide. And, and it was just like, how do I really make this sustainable for me? So this has been such an interesting conversation for me. And I just want to, since I have you here, I just want to ask if you could give any self-published author out there, somebody who's new to the game, or even somebody like me who's been doing this for almost 15 years, if you could give us just one tip, or maybe 2 or 3 tips, but if you could give us a tip, if there was something that, since you've been out there doing this, helping us get our books into the hands of people, is there anything you would tell us? Is there something you would tell us to make sure we do?
Well, I gave you the pre-order tip.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
How about like a meta tip?
Metadata?
No, meta tip.
Okay.
I just made up a word. Well, like I always thought, like if someone said that you could have one wish from the genie bottle, mm-hmm. I would wish for more wishes. I would plug my podcast, Smart Author. It's all about best practices. I'm going to teach you step by step, not just about pre-orders, but all the other essentials, these essentials that you need to know that your career will benefit from for the next 30 years. I think that would be a good first step because it's so tempting to give you like, what is the most important tip that's going to change your world? But there's no single magic bullet. Mm-hmm. There are multiple magic bullets. There are dozens of magic bullets. They're called best practices. They're not difficult to learn. You just need to find them organized in a way that you can, absorb in a short period of time. So I would encourage people to check that out. I've written some books, free books, the Smashwords book marketing guide, for example. Just had a major revision in 2018 and an update this year. I share 65 book marketing ideas. And all of these ideas are free. And, if you can read that, I think it will change your life, because you're going to learn the basics. You're going to learn everything I know about best practices, because I put it all out there on the page. If you want some other like low-hanging fruit tips, we talked about pre-orders, we talked about cover design, we talked about distribution. So we have covered like some of the most important things here. Another tip that I give authors, and I'll share it. This is an unusual tip. It is, be a nice person. It takes a village to publish books, and we're all in this together. And your fellow writers, your tribe, they're not your competitors, they're your partners. Open doors for your fellow writers. Do everything you can to help your fellow writers succeed. And when you succeed, bring your fellow writers with you. I think if we can all adopt that mantra, everyone will be more successful.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna agree with all of that again, Mark, because it is this podcast and this YouTube channel is about sharing what I've learned, but it's also to admit what I don't know. I've never done a pre-order, but
Right.
It's about me continuing to grow and learn, and about me sharing that with other people. And I have so many people out there who have succeeded in getting their books out there and doing what needs to be done, and they are teaching me, and I'm inviting them on here, and we're going to teach others. And this interview, because one of the questions that I always get from people is like I say, why do I need more than one platform? Why? And so I'm like, I wanted to have the opportunity to introduce people to the people who are managing and running and creating these platforms, so that they can hear from you why they should have more than one platform. Because if you're making so many dollars a month or every 2 months or 3 months in your royalties because of this one platform, it's like, well, isn't that all I need? Why do I need to put So I think this gives them the opportunity to see that there is so much more real estate out there, and you can get your product out there, and you can just, the potential, expands a bit if you give yourself that opportunity. So I think this was an awesome conversation for me personally, Mark, because I feel like I've learned something, which I always like to do.
Great.
So thank you. And again, just thank you for taking time out of your afternoon to join me today to share with people exactly who Smashwords is, and
Yeah.
what that footprint has been over the last, so many years, since 2008, right? So just what that's been, and what the possibilities are if they partner with Smashwords to get their books out there.
Yeah. Well, Angela, thank you for inviting me on your show. I really appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate you reaching out, and I wish you the best of luck, and your viewers and listeners the best of luck. This is a great time to be publishing books. This is, keep a long-term perspective. Do it for the love of writing, the love of pleasing your readers, and you'll be successful.
Yeah, I agree. To everybody out there in YouTube world and podcast land, this is Mark Coker, CEO and founder of Smashwords, and I am Angela K. Austin. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope that I will see you all again soon. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.